Joe Passarelli here. Thank you to everyone who keeps liking, subscribing the videos. Greatly appreciated. I wanted to hit on a controversial topic. One of the more controversial topics I've hit on in my vlog Joe Passarelli series here on YouTube, and that is the recent public coming out of Pat Paterson on Legends House in the WWE Network. Now, obviously, this was a show that was taped a few years ago, so it's not like they just shot this footage. However, Pat Paterson, just to give you a little background, it has been kind of a known fact, even though he had never really said it publicly, that he was gay for a very long time in the world of wrestling. I mean, if you're more than just a casual fan and you go on YouTube and you see what's going on, you find out Paterson's history, and let me tell you, I have no problem with any athlete, wrestler, actor, actress, individual coming out, being themselves, being comfortable in their own skin, doing it in a public fashion, and being them. However, I do have a problem with the WWE glorifying the coming out of Pat Paterson. Now, let's not get it twisted. Pat Paterson is one of the biggest legends in the history of this business, not just for his in-ring competition, of course, first ever Intercontinental Champion, Hall of Famer in the ring, but behind the scenes, one of the greatest of all time, creatively, when it comes to coming up with finishes and stuff for matches, and really a genius when it comes to wrestling, and one of Vince McMahon's right-hand men for decades and decades now. However, I have a big problem with the WWE glorifying this, because if you really delve into Pat Paterson's past and really watch a lot that's on YouTube and really search, you come and find some stuff that's a little hair-raising. There's a certain video, it's a Geraldo Rivera story, Geraldo in the ring, scandals WWF. It's about a 23-minute video, and it features interviews with Bruno Sammartino and referees and other talent that was with the WWE in the 80s and 90s. And, look, take things for a grain of salt. You can't believe everything that you see, whether it was an old television broadcast or something you see on YouTube or an interview. And I'm not going to delve into every little thing I've seen and make this whole shoot against Pat Paterson, because it's really not. It's just pointing out the WWE and a certain hypocrisy and the specific person they're choosing to make this public and try to get notoriety and exposure from this. Obviously, ratings in the WWE Network and shock value and something that makes people go, wow, oh my god. Now, on the segment of Legends House, they were talking about really aspects of their personality, and they were bonding as a group. So Pat Paterson felt comfortable enough to expose this part of his life on television and with his peers, people that he had been in the business with for decades upon decades now, fellow legends, obviously Legends House. And he made the announcement, and they seemed supportive upon the little footage I've seen from it, but like I said, if you do your research on Pat Paterson, you're not going to like everything you find. And I'm trying to be professional, be a journalist about this, and not get too personally invested, and not believe everything I've seen on YouTube. But there's a lot of stuff suggesting that Pat Paterson wasn't necessarily he's not exactly without sin in this world. We'll leave it like that. And no man is. Let's put it like that. But there have been scandals, there have been hypocrisies, a sex scandal involving Pat Paterson and others. Leave it at that. In the early 90s, gave some negative attention to WWF. Obviously, the WWF doesn't want this circulating in the media and doesn't want public discussion about this now. It's a controversial topic. It's something, we've seen stuff that's happening at Penn State with Jerry Sandusky and other sex scandals. Nowadays, you get involved in a sex scandal, especially the more in bad moral taste it is and bad character, the more you're subject to bad ramifications in today's society. You see Donald Sterling for that, and that all that was based on was statements. But the WWE glorifying this, I mean, it seems like they may have even ribbed Pat Patterson in the past for this. I remember one time they had him and Briscoe in the 90s dress up in drag and do little gimmicks like that. And I will say, I enjoyed Patterson and Briscoe's work in the 90s. I thought they were an enjoyable part of the Attitude Era. The Stooges shtick, they were obviously part of one of the highest rated segments in Raw history with the Mean Street Posse coming out to Hogan's music. So, again, like I said, Pat Patterson, true legend. I can't, from a professional standpoint, take that away from him. But I have my personal opinions, and I personally feel that the WWE, trying to get notoriety from Pat Patterson coming out, it's sending mixed signals because people can do their research. People can go on YouTube. It's out there. Like I said, the Geraldo Rivera's piece, interviews with Bruno Sammartino, superstar Billy Graham, among others, people that were there, people that saw things. These things are not exactly the most comfortable things that you're going to see, and Pat Patterson, like I said, no man on this earth is without sin. Certainly, the level of sins is cast on the level of judgment we deal with in life. Pat Patterson has to live with that, so does anyone else really in life. But for the WWE to choose him, I mean, there's been so many other gay athletes that have come through the WWE, and a lot of them have actually faced turmoil and backlash due to the stigma of them being gay. The WWE obviously trying to move away from that. We'll cite a recent example first in Darren Young. Darren Young publicly came out very nonchalantly in a TMZ interview, and obviously it got a lot of notoriety in social networking and everything else. And I was happy for Darren Young. I'm still happy for Darren Young. I support the cause. Ironically, today is actually Pride Day in Providence, Rhode Island. People are going to be out there supporting. I'm going to be working monster trucks at Gillette Stadium, but hey, I support the cause. I really do. And like I said, with Darren Young, what did they really do with Darren Young after he publicly came out? They didn't really boost his character, enhance it in a way where he even would be a star campaign and other things where he could be a public spokesperson and maybe how he dealt with bullying. I mean, hey, maybe he turned it down. Maybe he was offered it and he turned it down. We can't rule that out. But it seems to me, what did they really do with Darren Young? They didn't feature him. They killed off the primetime players, had Titus turn heel, did nothing with him, and now Darren Young's hurt. And who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if Darren Young's part of the next wave of cuts whenever that happens. And we know that shoe's going to drop eventually, and who else is going to get cut from the WWE? But obviously with Darren Young, they haven't capitalized on it. Orlando Jordan, a guy who they didn't necessarily exploit it. TNA, I thought, did a lot worse of exploitation of Orlando Jordan, but he only went a certain way in the WWE, certain far in the WWE, and there was obviously a certain glass ceiling for him. And one of the most notable, and I wanted to close this discussion on this particular athlete, one of my favorite athletes from WCW, and the Invasion angle in 2001, 2002 WWE. Who better than Chris Kanyon? Who better than Kanyon? The man who was such an innovator in WCW with the elevator and all the different moves he brought out. Obviously one of Diamond Dallas Page's best friends, part of the triad with Diamond Dallas Page and Bam Bam Bigelow. Former U.S. champion in the WWE, and I think him and Page were WCW tag champs at one point too in the WWE. I mean, he had success. However, he got hurt. He was out for like 6 months, and one can only speculate that word got out that he was gay. And when he was brought back, they introduced him as Boy George. He was dressed up as Boy George. He came out of like a box or something, and like was the antagonist to the Undertaker. Did not lead to a Kanyon Undertaker feud. Did not lead to any kind of payoff for Kanyon. It was just a way to mock Kanyon and rib him and exploit him for his true self, for something that obviously, he had struggled to fight the realization that he was gay and to be a homosexual male in the world of sports entertainment and the world of wrestling, which obviously for the longest time was not a very pro-gay atmosphere. So, as positive as I feel in some ways the Pat Paterson announcement is, I mean, you see this more and more in sports, obviously with Michael Sam in the NFL, and obviously the media ran with that, glorified the kiss he had with his boyfriend, and people had their opinions on that and everything. But I find it uncomfortable and unsettling that the WWE would choose Pat Paterson to be their poster boy or someone that they would publicly, showcase on their programming, whether it be on the WWE Network or not. They obviously were trying to go for some kind of ratings with that. Who knows if Pat Paterson was told to do that or he legitimately just organically said that within the conversation. I really wonder. I mean, reality shows, they're part work, part shoot, especially with a WWE reality show like that. I gotta think a lot of that's at work. Total Diva is another thing that's majority work. So, to me, someone who really was a fan of Chris Kanyon, and Chris Kanyon had a vision for there to be a gay wrestler, him to be acknowledged publicly as gay, but him not to be the Boy George gimmick, not to be the Goldust gimmick, not that, Goldust was playing a character, and that's worked out to, in my opinion, to be a Hall of Fame character for Goldust, especially in the mid-90s when he was really doing some taboo stuff. I think Goldust character is one of the only gay or homosexual or transgender-like characters that really was seen as not a joke, like people like Adrian Adonis, other characters. They weren't really taken that seriously, in my opinion, and obviously the WWE tried to do that with Chris Kanyon. I mean, putting him in a Boy George outfit, obviously, there's a precedent there. So, you look at the Orlando Jordans and the Chris Kanyons of the world, the Darren Youngs of the world, and I support them. God bless Chris Kanyon, God rest his soul. One of the greats taken from us far too young. But I generally have a problem with the WWE publicly glorifying the coming out of Pat Paterson on the WWE Network. Folks, what do you think? One of my more controversial topics. Like, subscribe, comment. It's Joe Passarelli. Joe Passarelli channel. Joe Passarelli Show.